Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. In today's special episode, we sat down with Rex M. Lee, cybersecurity advisor at MySmart Privacy. He helps shed light on China's cyber attacks on America, how it affects us in our daily lives, and what can be done to stop it. Let's dive in. Rex, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Tiffany. Glad to be here.
So recently, China's been in the headlines a lot, whether that's say, maybe a total war with China over Taiwan, but another big area is cyber. So we hear a lot about cyber attacks on America especially, but give us a sense of how widespread this is, especially in terms of Americans.
Okay, well, these attacks that you're hearing about in the news are all tied to unrestricted hybrid warfare waged by China. And this goes back to the 1990s. And what unrestricted hybrid warfare is, it's warfare that targets everyone where there are no rules. This includes targeting children, teens, business leaders, members of the military, members of law enforcement, elected officials, even the president.
And so how is China able to get into these institutions, say whether that's government or business or even personal?
They're able to get into these institutions usually through insider attacks. A lot of people wonder where cybersecurity attacks mostly occur, and about 90% of them are associated with insider attacks. This means that it usually comes from an employee, even a company leader in the even a leader in the company that could be leveraged, as well as the attacks could come from the supply chain that supports the company or the organization or government agency, for example.
And so how sophisticated or not are these attacks? For instance, some of the big ones we've read about in the news.
Well, they're very sophisticated today. That no longer are hacks coming in through traditional methods like telecommunication networks or even through email phishing. They still can attack through email phishing. They've advanced that to SMS texting, by the way. A text message can launch an attack as well. But mainly what we're seeing, nation state hackers from China, which are apt groups, or Russia, like Fancy Bear, Sandworm, and some of their groups, or Lazarus from North Korea. We're seeing these groups utilize the Android OS, Apple iOS, and Microsoft Windows 8, 10, and 11 OS to launch in a wide array of attacks on networks that include ransomware attacks, DDoS attacks, and man-in-the-middle attacks. They can launch just about any attack either through the operating system that supports a mobile device like a smartphone or a PC, or they can utilize apps. Google has removed over 300 of these types of apps and recently that could launch these types of attacks. Apple was compromised through their MDM their MDM security platform as well, where hackers got in through the security platform and they were able to spoof the platform. They were able to spoof the end user to the platform to get authentication tokens to be able to get back into the security platform.
And Rex, earlier this year, you had an article titled "Smartphone App Users Are Data Mined Even When Not Using the App." So what exactly is the information that's being gathered on individuals?
Well, you have to look at an app as legal malware. And that's the best way you can describe apps today. An app, whether it's a social media app developed by ByteDance, such as TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, any of these apps are basically they're basically legal malware that enable the developer to monitor, track, and data mine the end user for financial gain 24/7, 365 days a year. A single intrusive app enables the developer to collect over 5,000 highly confidential data points associated with the end user's personal information, business information, medical information, legal information, and employment information, because the surveillance and data mining done by these companies is indiscriminate, meaning that they're not only collecting consumer information, they're collecting every bit of information from the end user, including text messages, email attachments, calendar events, and so forth. A lot of these abilities come through the app being able to what an app will do is it will interlink with all of the hardware on the device and the sensors on the device, such as camera and microphone, as well as sensors such as the accelerometer. So they can do audio, video, and physical surveillance on you 24 hours, 365 days a year while collecting those 5,000 highly confidential data points on the end user. What they're doing is they package that and they monetize it. But also, as we're seeing in the news, is that these tech companies are aligned with governments. So the information a lot of times is ending up in the hands of the government.
And Rex, in the beginning, you mentioned how this bigger cyber attack thing fits into China's hybrid or unrestricted warfare. So to really
Yes.
defend against that, what can individuals do?
Well, again, you have to look at what type of apps you're using on your phone. First of all, countries like India have banned all of the intrusive apps from China. You can't get TikTok in India. Other countries have followed suit. The problem here in the United States is the U.S. China tech lobby. I say really the U.S. China tech lobby is a national security threat for these reasons. The US is one of the few countries that allow companies from adversarial nations to lobby their lawmakers through powerful K Street law firms. So, when that's happening, I'll give you an example. ByteDance hired former Trump advisor and ACG lobbyist David Urban, and they also hired ACG to lobby on their behalf. If you remember, a couple of years ago during the Trump administration, they were labeled a cybersecurity threat and a national security threat as well. Huawei was labeled a national security threat by the Obama administration and the Obama administration and the Trump administration. And recently, Huawei hired Democrat strategist or former Democrat strategist Tony Podesta. So they're hiring both Republicans and Democrat advisors and former politicians or elected officials to do their lobbying for them, and they're paying them millions of dollars. Tony Podesta has made over $1 million from Huawei, and not only has ACG and David Urban made millions of dollars from ByteDance, ByteDance hired David Urban as one of their executive senior VPs. So when you look at what's going on one hand, the politicians are saying that China's a threat. On the other hand, they're taking money from Chinese companies through lobbyists, K Street law firms and lobbyists. So government's not going to protect you. And this is why companies need to implement enterprise top-down cybersecurity, privacy and intelligence strategy, as well as individuals need to look at what's on their phone and start to analyze those apps. I have a lot of this information up on my website, My Smart Privacy. That people, they can go to www.mysmartprivacy.com, and all my articles that I wrote for the Epic Times on these subject matters are posted up there. A lot of the interviews that I've done with Epic Times TV's Crossroads and China Insider are up there as well. And there's a wealth of information there for people to access. And there's no charge for it either. I'm a tech journalist as well, so I like to post my articles up on that website.
Given the kind of two-faced messaging coming from government then, right? So on the one hand, they're saying China's the foe, not to work with them, but then they're taking these secret million-dollar deals. What is it going to take then? Is it for individuals to make their voices heard, for new laws to be implemented?
Yeah, I discussed this with David Zhang on China Insider, and I went back in and I looked and I saw some of the comments in there, and people asked what they could do. Well, I told them they should send a link to that interview, which was based on the U.S. China tech lobby. They should take a link to that interview and send that to their representative and ask their representative if they were elected to serve corporations on corporations through K Street lobbyists and law firms, or were they elected to represent the individual constituent? So the constituents need to make their voices heard, and they need to arm themselves with as much information as possible, such as an interview such as this or the one that I did with China Insider, and send those interviews to these lawmakers and ask their lawmakers why are they in Washington? To serve the best interests of multinational companies, including those from Russia and China? Or are they in Washington to serve their constituents? It seems like when these elected officials are appealing for our vote, they keep telling us how much good they're going to do for us, but then they go to office and they become millionaires and their family members become millionaires. There's a lot of conflicts of interest going on in this matter. In the green energy industry, for instance, Andre Hines, the stepson of John Kerry, represents a capital investment group or a venture capitalist group centered on green energy called Obvious. That's a conflict of interest because they stand to make billions of dollars on energy policies that his stepfather is influencing in the White House. We saw this with Hunter Biden in the Ukraine and also his interests in China. And just recently, Paulie Pelosi, the son of Nancy Pelosi, traveled with her on her trip to Asia and met with companies. So God only knows what his investment firm is going to be investing in the future, and how much inside information these family members are gaining through their through their parents or their relatives who are elected officials.
Rex, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Tiffany.
That was Rex M. Lee, cybersecurity advisor at MySmart Privacy. And for those watching our full episode, joining us after the break, Greg Copley, president of the International Strategic Studies Association and author of the new Total War. He touches on the recent buzz over House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan and what that means for this November, both in terms of our midterm elections and Chinese leader Xi Jinping seeking an unprecedented third term. Our full episode is available on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and see you soon.